we stay. Oh, yeah, the discussion was which scenario are we inclined to support? So Councillor Court, you wanted to have a little bit of time to look at it, and do you have any preference?
I kind of like what Councillor Drew was saying. I like the scenario too, but if we can do some deferrals off of some of the other ones that administration is comfortable with, I'm good with that as well. So.
Okay. Councillor Brown? So, Councillor Bengry, you already said any of those scenarios are not to your liking.
Well, I would go with scenario 2, but I would like to take some of the others out of the other scenarios and.
A blending of.
Yeah.
A blended scenario.
Yes, yeah.
Councillor Barnes?
I like the blended idea that Councillor Selk brought up.
Councillor Selk? Okay. And I think if we could save some of the MSI, some of the MSI, I would feel more comfortable. Yes, Jeff?
Complicate your current discussion. So it's fine.
But you're going to anyway.
Sorry. If the intention is to use the $300,000 in rec reserves, all those other rec things have to be deferred. That's how they were being funded. And so that's fine. So I just want a couple of we have to find additional funding if we're saying that we're going to use all of the rec reserves and do some of the rec priorities, because 300,000 was funding the rec priorities. So we can't have both in the same scenario.
Yeah, I understand
Right,
what you're saying.
So we'll have to do that, but I guess my question is then, just so I'm clear, we'll try and fashion something for consideration. Are we okay to use most of the remaining MSI?
Well, okay. Personally, I am not okay with that idea, but it seems to me that maybe that is not what other councillors feel like. So let's give them a chance to talk.
So when we talk about MSI, in scenario 1, it's 400,000. In scenario 2, it's 484,500, and that's all.
Yeah, correct.
So we're only talking about $85,000 or $84,500 difference, right?
Yeah,
Am
so
I-
in scenario 1, I used 400 because that balanced it. I got us to $1 million.
Okay.
That's what was needed. But there's 484,500 or whatever that number is to total. Now we can cancel, for example, a couple of the MSI funded things as well. I'm just saying philosophically, do we use as much of the remaining MSI as possible to balance this? That's what I'm looking for. Okay.
Councillor Selk, go ahead.
So
Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Barnes had his hand up. Would you mind waiting for a second?
Okay, I'm confused, Jeff. When you say those deferrals were being used by the Recreation Reserve,
Correct.
well, how is it then you're adding it up all those cancellations and deferrals to come up with part of the total of $1 million plus the recreation services? That's kind of confusing to me. I'm not
Okay,
quite
well,
sure where you're
let's-
going with that.
Okay, I
I was
see.
understanding that that money was there,
Yeah.
put aside for those.
yes.
So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
In scenario 1,
Yeah.
my question.
yeah, me too.
No, that's a good point.
S-
Counselor.
s-
Let me think through that for a sec.
Scenario 1, you have $300,000 use of recreation reserve.
Yeah.
Then you have the cancellation of the other,
Right.
but that's already included in your 300,000.
1,000.
In other words, if I understand correctly, you really have a shortage of $300,000 in that first scenario.
We had to pull those other reserves. Yes, correct. That's an error on my
Okay.
end. Thank you for catching it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. So I was trying to come back to it and try to make sense out of it.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up, because I was trying to do the math and thinking something
Oh, I
doesn't pan
couldn't-
out
I couldn't
here.
hit the math there either.
That scenario A works if the 300,000 was the balance at the end of
Right.
2020.
Exactly.
Balance at the end of 2021.
Exactly.
My mistake.
No, it's okay. It's, we're looking at it.
First one you've ever made. How does it feel?
We're trying to understand. So,
I roll.
okay, so
Brian?
in other words, if we look at that scenario 2, the truth of the story is, as Councillor Barnes said, once you use the recreation reserve, there is no money
To do
Right.
any
to do
Anything.
anything else.
Yeah.
By default, everything has to be deferred. So that's a little bit a question that we need to wrap our head around, because if you don't have what you said, Councillor Brown, before, don't know where I wrote it down, but you had the committees that had said there were some priority lists. Can you tell me again what there were?
Okay, so you already know number 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Number 3 was Redford Playground. Number 4 was Redford Stairs. Tennis courts.
On the Redford
Civic
Playground, were they
Center.
just looking to expand it? Is that what they were thinking?
I think to replace.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Replacing it?
That's what Randy said.
System we have now.
That's right.
Well, it's
There is
right.
one down there that works, but yeah.
So Redford Stairs, tennis courts, Civic Center and Museum irrigation, ice rink, compressor, Reunion Playground, dog park, pathway system, Lions Park picnic structure, and the disc golf course.
Okay, so,
Many of those we haven't entertained in this budget
Correct.
anyway.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she's asking.
so you have the Redford tot lot that was inside there.
Correct.
You had
Well, all of those items. were-
the stairs were there.
All of them.
All of those.
All of them.
All of those.
No,
parts, yeah.
not all of them.
No,
The
You-
dog park isn't in there. The
Well,
pathway
agreed,
system isn't
but-
in
But
there.
everything on this list was prioritized on your list.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, he took from our list of our
oh,
minutes.
oh,
and
okay,
built it.
I get it.
So
Okay, so
the
that's,
importance is in here.
that's how you came up with
Yes.
those, not by order of importance, but randomly from the list.
Well, it's $300,000 worth, which was what the reserve will be.
Correct.
You'll have in the reserve account next year.
Correct.
Right. Okay, so I don't know that it gives you, Councillor Sells, sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
I have to go back to the document you gave us a few weeks ago, the capital budget.
Yep.
So, in reviewing this, I got a couple questions, Jeff. You got resurfaced the tennis courts for 150,000, but in here it's 75.
Yeah, and under the other, we assumed we would see grant funding for the other half. So we had 75,000, which was reserve funded, and then under the other, again, we know we have to arrive at that somehow. So it's assumed some type of CFEC or some kind of recreation.
So, in going through this list, if you nuke the security cameras, you nuke the concrete pouring machine, you nuke the pavement on 6th Street and the water line, if you get rid of the tennis court resurfacing, the civic center and the courthouse irrigation upgrade, the tot lots,
It's what's.
to replace the bleachers and whatnot, you come up with about $500 and some thousand. And then $300,000 from reserves.
Okay, Councillor, can I ask you a question?
Sure. Why not?
Oh, Councillor, please. So, regarding the security camera, isn't it important to have increased
The
security?
cameras where?
Well, that is, if, I don't know if you worked about with the RCMP, but,
I did the first time.
okay, well, when I went there, they want to see more security behind the Royal Bank. There is exchange of drug dealing happening right there. And I want to see something there.
Whatever.
If I just mentioned something to that, Councilor, so one of the challenges for 200 grand of that, well, yeah, a little better. the water and the pavement are funded by federal gas tax fund, which we can't use federal gas tax for recreation purposes, right? So some of that, we could look to, if there was other qualifying expenses in the budget that we could use federal gas tax for, then we could shift it to that, so I just have to look close at that. But I can't shift that money from underground or pavement to recreation, that's not allowed under that grant.
Do you have any more questions?
Can you use it for the drying beds?
I have to see, yeah, I just have to, like I said, there's other things and we can look to shift it. But I don't know that off the top of my head.
Councillor Drew?
So, if we use recreation reserves, all of the things that Councillor Selk just talked about, isn't that included in that reserve that we were gonna use that money for?
Somewhere, he hit on some other things that we're using MSI or federal
Oh,
gas
okay.
tax for.
All right.
So that frees up non-recreation cash, let's
Got it.
put it that way.
Okay. Good, thanks.
So let me ask this. I am trying to move this forward, I promise, I'm not just trying to stall it. Are we simply coming back to you with a capital budget that has $1 million for the rec center and then we fit in anything else after that? Like, is the rec center trumping anything else on this list, is what I'm asking? Because we can put that as the first thing on the list, and then if we can do Sixth Street, we'll do Sixth Street. If we can't, we won't. If we can buy a mower, we'll buy a mower. If we can't, we won't. But I guess that's what I'm trying to understand, because,
Yeah.
again, these scenarios are almost unlimited. Take the amount of variables, and so that's why I was asking things like, are we okay to use up to all of the MSI? And then my next question was gonna be, are we okay to use other reserves to make up the difference that aren't related to recreation? That way at least we know the big, wide swaths here.
Councillor Court?
This is one of the reasons I like to see a survey done sooner rather than later. Then we kind of get a feel of what the citizens are looking at. If we get good solid support, then yes, it is number one. If we don't get the solid support from the survey, then it's obviously not.
Yeah.
Right now, we're trying to make decisions, but we're not sure where our citizens are coming from.
Yeah.
So if we can get that survey done soon, we can make a lot better decisions on this.
Councillor Brown?
So, just a question. I'm the question girl. I just have the questions.
It's okay, questions are good.
So if in fact we say, yes, Jeff, we want you to come up with $1 million, come heck or high water, essentially. Then you go ahead and you find it. Then we get our survey back, and the survey says, no way in heck do the town residents of Cardston want this, okay? Then we've come up with this $1 million, but we're not married to the fact that it absolutely has to be spent on the rec center if we don't have the support of the community. Come January or whatever, we can put money back into these things that they were allotted for, can we not? Just because we're gonna say $1 million for a rec center, period. If we don't get the support, obviously it won't happen. So obviously all of this will go back to the way it was. Isn't that right?
Absolutely, that can be the scenario, yes.
Right.
You are obliged to pass an operating budget by
Correct.
the end of the year.
Yeah.
The capital budget can hold,
Right.
right? So, but we do have to come to some terms on operating budget.
Agreed.
The only challenge, and we can certainly overcome it, but I want to just always try and explain the challenges from my
Yeah.
end, is that because the dollars of this are significant, it does impact the operating side of the budget. So what you may find yourself in this scenario is you will pass an interim budget at the end of the year, and we will do no capital spending at the turn of the calendar, which is fine, and we don't normally get into deep capital spending in January anyway. And we operate on 2020's operational budget until everything is sorted out. I'm just feeling like, so 100% agree, Counselor, that we need to get that public input because it weighs heavily on your decision, no
Correct.
debate. But I also know you don't go to the school division who could be a major stakeholder till the end of the month, right? That's these other logistical challenges, right? So to be able to put all this together, it's gonna take us till the first week of December, probably. And, so to your, that was a long way of saying yes to your question, that we can go under some assumptions, we can pass an interim budget, We can continue to pursue those assumptions in the new year.
Okay. Thank
and
you.
go that way.
But, so
Councillor Drew.
I'm getting really tired of this. Sorry. I don't want to talk about money anymore because we've committed $1 million. That's what we've said, and $500,000 for a golf course clubhouse. And until we find out what our town feels and what our drawings are like and what that's going to be like, I don't think we need to have this conversation because we've committed that $1 million. Now, where it comes from, down the road, once we figure out what the town wants and how much it's going to cost and that kind of stuff, then I think we can have those kind of conversations and we can pass an interim budget, but we got to do that other work. I mean, we could be around the table all night long talking about money,
Okay.
but that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm pretty much done.
Okay.
So, sorry.
Councillor Drew, maybe in reply to what you're saying, what administration is trying to find is where is the preferred source of funding in order to be able for them to establish this year's capital budget and the next 4 years afterwards. And not only that, but they also have to do a 3-year operational this year plus 2 more years. And all that depends on that number that is a magical number that we do not have at the table. So you're right, it's a very tiring and we're turning around and we're going nowhere because the circle has no exit at this point. And the reason it has none is because we don't have the information we need. So we are putting the administration in a weird position along with the financial department where they have to establish a budget within the next months because it's required by the municipal act.
MGA.
And we're not helping them. So we ought to help them. So, yes, I understand the conundrum, but the truth of the matter is, unless we have the facts, we have to kind of take almost a shot in the dark and say, well, go this direction, and if it doesn't work, because of the public consultation, or because we just simply don't know what the future is, we can always change what the budget will look like later on. But right now, they need something to establish a budget. The $1 million spending is fine, but it's not where the issue is. The issue is the source of the funding. That's the issue right now.
So, I'm all for scenario 2. And if we went down that road, that would give administration the ability to, not only the direction, but the ability to figure out the budget.
Well,
That may change with some tweaking, but, I mean, all I'm saying is, and I understand that we have to have a budget, we could have an interim budget, but I just think we need to, there's so many other things that we have to find out, but if we said scenario 2 is where we're gonna go, here you go, Jeff, administration, this is what we think we're gonna do. Then when we find out what the town feels, the people in the town, and how much that's gonna cost us with our drawings and our blueprints, then that might change.
okay, so that is one perspective, and that's a good point, Councillor Drew, thank you. Jeff, I want to ask something about scenario 2. When we have depleted the $300 in recreation reserve, you said every year we normally put aside $225,000 or something like that. So that is 1 year's, a little bit more, 1 year's plus reserve, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, let me understand the unrelated reserve. So that's a little bit more something that there is no no detail here, but you have a figure. So the electrical is almost done with their work in town, their capital projects, correct? But they have, so we don't really know what is the proportion of the land electrical.
Neither do I.
Okay, all right, so that's fair enough.
That's fully at your discretion. You could pull $250,000 out of electrical equipment replacement if you so choose. I just get to break the news to Leonard. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is anything on the sheet, that's at your discretion. We just have to deal with that. It could be made up of 10 accounts.
Okay, so what I want to understand, you also have those reserves that were allotted for certain expenses that you wanted to have, I mean, purchases, whatever. And we don't understand what those are. We don't understand how high the priority is either for all those things. So that's something else we need to understand a little bit better.
I think more than anything, it's a bit philosophical. A couple of weeks ago my feeling, my interpretation only was that there wasn't a real appetite to draw from
No.
unrelated reserves to fund this.
Personally,
So I
yeah.
threw it on just to say, philosophically, do we pull from public works equipment? Do we pull from electrical, equipment, other contingencies? If you want to go down that road, now I'll have to figure out where the best
Okay.
place is for that to come from.
So this is where it's bringing another part of the conversation, because you're correct. Last meeting we said no, we were not interested in pulling from those side reserves, and all of a sudden this scenario that seemed to be more the appetite of council includes that. So I'm wondering, how are we as council if 1 week we were not comfortable with it, and all of a sudden we are comfortable with it, just because we need $1 million?
I just want to speak to that a bit generally. First of all, I think it's perfectly fine that you guys contend with this at length, by the way. And I know it's tiring for many of you, but it's a big deal. It is. Right? You probably should contend with it, and you probably should disagree, and you probably should have some consternation over the whole thing, for sure. And I think it's okay that 1 week you feel this is prudent and the next week you don't, because you've been presented with new information. So I think it's
Okay.
reasonable. The same way I think, it's difficult. Councillor Court feels strongly one way, the rest of you don't feel you have enough information to make a certain resolution. I think that's all fine. So I hope you're not weighing that too much, that you've changed your position, because you're looking at a different scenario now. You have different information in front of you. And I think you owe the public to contend with this at great length.
I totally agree. $1 million is no small thing. Councillor Bengry.
Question to Councillor Brown. Without the figures, how are you going to present this, just out of curiosity,
Absolutely.
to get school division commitment? Are they going to just say, well, yeah, we can commit to this or this, and then 3 months down the road, they say, well, that was just in principle? I mean, do we need to have a firm commitment from the school division? And if we do, how can you present that without having figures?
We do have a figure, Counselor. $1 million.
Yeah. We don't have a figure.
Go ahead, Councillor Brown.
So to answer your question, I would do it. I understand what you're saying, and you're valid, 100%. What I was thinking and what I pitched to council in our last meeting is that I would do very similar to what was done when they presented it to the county, and the county approved in principle, right? Okay. So until we get it in writing, Councillor, you're 100% correct. They're not all in until it's in writing, right? And so I don't think my perspective is that I'm going to come away from this, 1st of December, end of November meeting with it in writing. But I would like to know if, in theory, if what I'm presenting to them is something that
Okay.
they're interested
Palatable.
in. Yeah,
Okay.
because if it's not, well, that's valid. That's a huge part of this equation. I need to know that. That's kind of how, like I presented at the last meeting, that I was pitching it. I wasn't pitching it that this is unanimous and councils no matter what. No. I was pitching, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is important? And I've met with I met with Ken McMurray and I picked his brain on programming and all of that because, of course, the West Wind School Division, it is all about programming. And if we build a rec center across from them or close to them, and we have programs in it that they're never going to use, well, of course, they're not going to use it. So we need to make sure that we're speaking the same language. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have to be aware that the county had an interest,
Correct.
but there is no motion in principle to approve anything. That showed
Interesting.
curiosity and
Correct.
interest, that's
Correct.
all.
Yeah, just like we're hoping
Yeah.
West Wind will. Just like the pickleball are supported. Just like
So
the
that's more correct.
Cardston Support Services, right? We've met with them. They're super interested. All of these people that would be using this building, we've tried to say, is this interesting to you or is it not? Because if it's not, we don't want to build it in a community. Our goal is to build this and to have it used. We don't want it being what is Jeff? The millstone around our taxpayers. We don't want, like, that's not the intent here. The intent is that we've pitched it, that we've done our due diligence. We're not, it's all or nothing. I don't want that coming from this council. We're trying to be wise and we're trying to come up with the information, and we're close. I feel like we're close, and I appreciate the time and the budget, and this is stressful for some of us. But at the same time, I feel like with information we have power, right? So we need more information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for your question. Is there any other points that you want to discuss?
I hope this, I'm just trying to get my head around a couple things and not having a lot of time. I think what I'm going to do, unless there's an objection, is in order to get close but leave the door open for how this might play out, I think I'm going to start working towards an interim operating budget to be ready at the end of the year. And that's what we're going to work towards passing. We can't do mill rate with an interim. Heaven forbid we're still having this discussion in May, by the way. So I think what we're going to do is we'll work towards an interim operating budget. We don't have to pass an interim capital budget, but you do have to pass an
The
interim
operation,
operating budget.
yeah.
It can be by default the previous year, but with all the COVID adjustments we made, I'm not particularly comfortable with that. So I think we're going to work towards an interim operating budget with an intention of trying to finalize everything near the end of January. I think might be where we are. There's too many things up in the air on a major capital component here.
I agree. And Council, I think you probably would support that.
Okay, we'll start working the operating side into that.
Councillor?
Yeah, I've got a question on that 408,000 or whatever it was
484.
for the COVID losses.
For most, yeah.
Have you got it figured out where we're going to come from with that?
Not 100% of it yet, no.
Okay, so what kind of money are we kind of looking at? Have you
So,
come up with a scenario of how much of that money we would be able to use? Because whatever we can't use, we got to send back, right?
yeah.
So what if
I
we
don't
come up?
have that yet. We have put in the 2021 budget the whole revenue and the whole expense. So it's a wash no matter how much we spend, right?
Right,
So we
Yeah.
just put in the whole amount on both sides of the ledger.
okay.
But no, we don't have all $408,000 spent.
No, it's not an extra source of revenue.
$400,800 spent.
Yeah. It's not an extra source of revenue.
No.
It's in and out.
We can't store our masks and PPE stuff in the new rec
The rec
center.
center. That's brilliant.
For next year or something.
All right.
Okay,
Move on.
councillors, is there any more things you want to discuss? Should we should we give it a rest at this point? And if you have more questions, please send them to Jeff. And we need to discuss that. It's too much money involved, and it's too much involvement for this council to take it lightly. Okay, so let's go to 7B, Gulf Association MOU. So there is an agreement there.
Yeah.
There is, I think, an interesting way to present it.
I just want to get it moving ahead too.
So, Jeff, do you want to maybe take the lead on this one? You worked with Delbert Beezer. We
I
had
had another month in here and I opened the old one, but
we had this old MOU that was legally really difficult to appreciate because items were not really clear. And I think you clarified his idea and our idea.
I met with Delbert. The challenge we had with the one they presented was it extended this relationship far beyond what the resolution of council said the relationship was going to be. And so he was frustrated that it seemed like we wouldn't put it to bed, but once we kind of got through that idea that this was proposing much more than what was presented, at least for now, we brought it back to, I drafted this, just that this is a fundraising piece, and that's what it is. And there's a clause in there that at the end of the fundraising piece, and this relationship ceases, they have the opportunity to come and negotiate with council if there's a future relationship in some aspect. We don't know what that is yet, and that wasn't what the resolution was supporting. And so Delbert has got back to me, he supports this draft.
Okay. Councillors, are you comfortable with that draft? Councillor Selk? Councillor,
I think it's
I
great.
see nodding all over. Okay, there's one typo if you want to fix it, Jeff.
Yeah,
Just-
it was an of that should be if, yeah.
It's an on, it's,
On that is in.
Yeah.
I knew it was something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
just a detail before you send it back to him.
Do we need a motion on this or no?
We need a resolution.
I'll make that
Councillor
resolution
Gold.
to approve the Gulf Association Memorandum of Understanding.
Thank you. And Jeff, thank you for the time you took to draft this. It's really clear. All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, so that was an easy one.
I want to talk about it some more.
Okay.
Okay.
7C, Homeseeker Avenue update. If you see the result of the survey that was done, there was an issue with noise, an issue with dust control. So, as always, there is people who want to have everything for free, not understanding that when they bought their property, they did not pay for roads or sidewalk or all that stuff. Therefore, they got their land at a discounted price, if you want to call it that way. And now they want the town to pay for everything. So it doesn't really quite go that way, as you know. Therefore, I think the town will carry on doing the best they can to keep the dust down. But the truth of the matter is, if there is no appetite to participate except for one or two homeowner, I would say they have complaints and are no longer legitimate in my view. Or you are part of the solution, or the problem will be there forever and ever, because changing the base of that road is a major capital issue. And it's true that every winter that road is going to get worse, never mind better. But all what we have is to fix it with more asphalt and more grading. It's about all what we can do. I don't know what's your opinion, councillors, but honestly, I was a little discouraged when I read the results.
When I read that over, the first thing I thought, boy, they want stuff for free.
Well,
And-
that's
and I
really
thought,
what they
well,
want.
There's only one thing we can do is carry on the way we've been doing. there's not going to be anything really we can do.
But I think what we could do is possibly, the same way as we did for tents, is to keep a little bit of money in a kitty to try to
A little bit of dust abatement or something.
remedy dust and the noise. Well, there's not much we can do about that one.
I guess one other thing is we could put a sign up there, local residents use only or something like that. I mean, there's no law enforcement involved there.
But nobody will
it's a
respect
suggestion,
it.
Right?
So why put it there if nobody respects it?
I don't know, but
You'll notice the heavier traffic is Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. The dumps will.
The dump days.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's not, but council, it's not coming from the west, it's coming from the east.
Well, guys are going back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it comes from both sides.
It's just him.
Okay, so are we,
I think we're
So-
okay with that.
so Jeff, what is the resolution that can happen? Do you normally, as administration, send back a letter to all the residents telling them, we will do our best to keep the dust down?
Can do, yeah, but if there's no resolution to support, finally, you can just leave it, and then we'll let them know that we're just gonna maintain status quo.
Okay, and so we will do our best and maybe put a little bit of money. I don't know how much it cost us this year, but, we might have to put a little bit of oil on it and do maintenance the best we can, but
yeah,
we're not going to do a lot.
the only sign might help. But
Okay, so the next one, emergency management proposal. Do you want to talk to
Yeah,
that?
I'm gonna have JD speak to it. This is just, might be taking a little bit of your consideration. Council, remember we were looking at having a joint fire coordinator with all the county. The other partners we met, there wasn't a uniform agreement on doing that. So we're trying to take a different approach to realize some of the same goals. JD has been pursuing some things with the other communities on the emergency management side. The fire thing we'll talk about a little later in another meeting. But I just wanted JD to talk really quick about what we're pursuing on the emergency management side so that you're aware of it if you hear anything and how we're proposing to fund it.
Okay. JD, go ahead.
When the support was lost for negotiating on getting the regional fire representative that would eventually take on the roles of a regional emergency management deputy, the group being Carson County, McGrath, us and the villages, decided that they would support having a consultation, hiring a consultant to have a one-time expense to get the brunt of the work done in those two areas. And so we're currently reviewing a proposal that we've obtained for the emergency management that's going to address the individual emergency response plans and present a framework and provide the necessary bylaws and policies to proceed with a regional emergency management agency and deputy if the group decides to carry on with that. And so we're reviewing that proposal now. The town stands to benefit quite a bit from that type of an approach, as it would free up a lot of the responsibility and commitment from the CAO and administration. And it would it would align our plans with the plans of our neighbors and present a much stronger regional initiative towards emergency management. It would help us keep in line with the government policies as they change and trends moving forward, and organizing exercises and just really enhancing the whole region's emergency response. So that was the main motivation for the five of us, or the five municipalities, moving forward with that. There's a modest cost for, for the consultant to do this, and we're anticipating being able to use the most funds to fund that, because there is going to be a significant amount of attention to the pandemic emergency and the gaps that we experienced as we were working through
Right.
managing that in his proposal. And the other municipalities also have funds set aside. So that's moving forward, and it seems like everyone is on the same page for that. We're not looking for a resolution at this time, but we are getting close to being able to act on that. And as Jeff mentioned, we do have, that's on the emergency management side. We are pursuing also the same types of consultation on the fire side, but we haven't received any proposals for that yet.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's a good debrief. Thank you. Much appreciated. All right, under 8, you have the financial report. Are there any questions for administration regarding that? If not, I have one question for you, Jeff. I know that this is at the end of October, no, at the end of September. So do you know when the date was? October 31st, I think, for the taxes to come in, or was it September 30th? Okay, so there is a little bit of gap there. So how much default do we have taxes that have not been paid? Do we know?
I'd have to get that from Jill. I don't-
Okay, could you maybe for the next council meeting or recommendation, give us a little bit of a sense where we're going, because there's a fairly significant gap there.
I'm not sure I see the gap, Mayor, between budget to actual and tax revenues, if I'm honest. There's only a $5,000 spread between.
Okay, did I read it wrong? Maybe I did.
You learned tonight.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. $5,000, you're right. So, but can you find out, because what I was looking at was the taxes receivable. Yeah, if you look in the assets and liability, if you look at the,
9,000, yeah, okay.
so that's what I was looking at.
Sure, yeah.
So to me, that told me that there is, in net accumulation, there are taxes for the past 3 years, but I'd like to know what this year impact is. Okay, makes sense? So I did not read it wrong.
That's looking at that one, that makes sense.
Okay, so thank you. All right, 9. So that, Councillor Brown, you have asked for this item to be put on council. Is Festival of Lights Parade?
Correct.
Would you like to give us a sense of what's happening there?
You bet. So I got a phone call Saturday night from Dana Stewart. She is,
Yeah, part of the
them-
committee.
sorry?
She's part of the committee of the Festival of Light. Sorry.
Okay. So she is a member, and she is the one in charge of the parade for the Festival of Lights. And she asked if I would bring to council and ask if we had, if council would be willing to put a float or something together so that council, sorry, let me back up. So the Festival of Lights is having a drive-by. They've got a route, and they've actually posted it. You can go online and check it out. And it's very similar to what we did for Heritage Week with the cars and the motorcycles. And so they're kind of doing very similar to that, it's my understanding. And they've drummed up a whole bunch of businesses in town and other people, and they're wondering if council would put some of councilors in to be in their cars and decorated, or however we see fit, to help support them in this time and then drive on this path. So that's her question. She just wondered if we would be willing to support this. So I told her I would bring it up to council.
It's an interesting thought. We never...
Said that, Mayor, you were already speaking at something.
Okay, so what they have asked me to do, which I already have submitted, but which Shem needs to help me put as a video. They're putting together a video, and I think that Corey is involved with that. So what we need to do, I have written a message, and the message needs to be videotaped. So maybe we can figure out when we can do that. And then that tape needs to go to Corey. And I have already submitted the talk to Heather. It has been approved.
Okay.
So what needs to be done now is to record it and to send it. So that's,
So she said we already had you doing that,
Yeah.
and she appreciated that. She just wondered if it was possible if the rest of council, and like she said, it doesn't have to be all of us, if some of us would just love to be a part of it.
okay, so let's put it,
I think it's a great idea.
let's put it this way. So if somebody wanted to have a car decorated as a town
Yep.
or a truck or something, so go ahead. I don't know what to tell you.
What's the date on this? Sorry.
Sorry, it
What is-
is, yeah, November 20th at 6
November 20th?
at
Kind of
6 o'clock,
decorations are we
correct.
talking here?
So it's winter,
Yeah.
so, it's not gonna be.
Like you want Rudolph on the hood? or-
Honestly, she said it could be anything our little heart desire, but I have total faith in Counselor Barnes and his ability to bedazzle with lights and all sorts of goodness something.
He done it before.
I'm just
for-
saying,
Support that motion.
he lights up for Christmas, and so I just think. Sorry, Counselor, but you do.
Oh, you
It's a
assigned
thing.
me, have you?
No, I mean, I'm happy to be in it as well, but you're asking what kind of decorations? We have people for that.
Okay.
Okay, if you don't mind. My daughter's been hounding me from Edmonton. And last year I went in the Fort McLeod parade and I put my
You had your
Christmas
Santa.
tree, my inflatable, my snowman up there, and my daughter's buying a whole bunch of LED battery-powered lights to put around, the inside, my windows and all that kind of stuff. And if I had some commitment from somebody to come along with me to help put up my stuff, my knees don't work like they used to.
Okay, so
I-
what kind of support do you need, Councillor?
I need somebody that would like to come for the ride and help me put up my my inflatables. I've got the plug-ins in my vehicle already. Just run the plug-ins in and out through the window, the back window that kind of opens up like this, and then I plug them in.
Okay, so you need somebody that has time and
Help
who
me put
can
them
do a little bit of the lifting.
So I have time, but I feel like we shouldn't have more than one counselor in a vehicle just due to COVID. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it would look better for us to be in separate vehicles, but I'm more than happy to help you, counselor.
Yeah, I'd love to have some help. I don't mind driving by myself. I mean, maybe my wife will come along for a ride. My daughter's coming down, but I don't think they're going to be here then. I think they're heading back to Edmonton.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
that's the
Okay,
question.
Counselor,
Thank
need some
you.
help with that lifting and
Pardon
stuff.
me?
I'll help you as well with setting it up
Will
if you
ya?
need some help with lifting and that.
How about wearing your mask and come and sitting beside me?
I'm not sure about that.
Jeff?
I don't relish playing Mr. Grinch on Christmas activities, but I did tell Heather already that being we're under a watch, if Alberta Health considers that to be a social event to gather more than 15 people, it is not happening.
I actually brought that up because I said, I'm sorry, you're having what? A parade? Because I got shut down for Heritage Week
On a reverse parade.
on the reverse parade.
That's
so
correct.
I thought this was interesting, but okay.
No, in fact, she'd emailed me something yesterday, and I emailed her back, and then I said, just a heads up, this may be something to consider. No, 2 days ago. And then it was like an hour later that the flag came
watch
down,
Community
so I
right
emailed
now.
her back and said, hey,
Yeah.
Right.
we
Yeah,
can
we're
watch
under
this for
watch.
another few days or so, but
Might not happen.
it might not happen if AHS considers it a social event that attracts more than 15 people.
Mayor.
Councillor Brown?
Well, but the truth is, the way they, Heather Jakes and her people have got together, and Dana Stewart and all of them have got together and created this amazing light display on Main Street with the help of our town workers. They're doing lots of online stuff and so that wouldn't be the worst of it, right?
they're doing awesome.
So I feel like they have tried. They're thinking outside the box due to COVID.
Yep.
So it's not like it would all be canceled. It could just be this area. But
Yeah.
anyway, so do we have anyone else from council that would like to be a part of this? I guess is the question.
Run it by the
So I
Decorate
can
their own
answer her
vehicle?
back. Sorry?
E-Crest, that's
Somebody
what
else decorate a vehicle too?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be fun to have.
Decorated. I don't have any decoration for a car.
Speak up.
I don't have any decoration for a car for Christmas, so
They sell them all over
you,
the
do
town.
you have picture of what you've done?
Probably in my phone.
Well, send them to us.
Just, yeah. So would it be okay, Mayor, if I, because she needs me to email her back tonight, could I email her back and say, we have a few members
It could
of
be one or
council?
two cars.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Pending COVID restrictions and all of that goodness.
Yeah, just tell her it could
Okay.
be for sure one, maybe two.
Perfect, sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you.
All right. So, no, it could be fun.
Seniors love it.
I appreciated it when in the summer they did the drive-by and the fast on the east side of the town. It was nice. All right, Councillor, under 9B, would you please talk to the requests that you have for
Yes.
council?
I'm requesting council allow me to put my name up for standing for election to the ORSC
Executive.
Executive Board. They have an organization meeting on December 3rd. The nominations have to be in, well, not the nominations, but the names have to be in by November the 20th, I believe,
And you've been on that board for a long time, haven't you?
last 3 years.
Right, so I can see why you would be interested, seeing the dynamic over there. Okay, so, yeah,
Can I make a motion on that? I would like to make a motion to put Counselor Bengry on allowing his name to be put forward to run for
OSC Executive.
Executive Board. Thank you.
Okay, and so that would be really to approve his per diems.
And to approve his per diems. Yep, I
Yeah.
said that.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, for trying to take that on. It's interesting to be on those type of committees.
Must be
All
on a
right.
different phone.
So at this point, I'm not sure that there is any correspondence. There is none. All right, so the portion of our public meeting is over.
Motion to go closed session?
No, no.
We should extend before you do that.
Yeah, we need to extend. Extend,
You can't wrap up for 6 minutes?
No, I can tell you, you're gonna be in
Okay.
that long in 6 minutes.
extend for 1 hour. Extend for 1 hour, so that way we will be safe, okay?
Motion to extend for 1 hour.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Corey, for your
Said it looked,
presence
she saw the
here.
town council.
Much
told me it looked like
appreciated.
Window that had been left open at town